Always a delight to see this gentleman on the court, Furkan Korkmaz. It looks like a make. If I had to guess, that follow-through says make during his pregame warm-ups. Tyrese Maxey coming off of a very nice game against the Golden State Warriors on Monday, getting up some shots as well. The rookie ready to go in the finale of a homestand tonight. And you know you can always count on Shake Milton to be a difference maker for the 76ers. This might be a night for some of the reserve members of the 76ers as they wrap up their four-game homestand against another really tough opponent, the Phoenix Suns, surging out of the West and number 2 seed in the Western Conference as the 76ers begin a critical back-to-back starting tonight, wrapping up tomorrow in Milwaukee, and they'll stay there for a game on Saturday. As we peek into the center in South Philadelphia, Kitty Edition night, some of the stars coming out for sure, as we bring you into 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. How you doing? I'm Brian Seltzer. Lauren Rosen is on site. As I alluded to, Lauren, at the top, we are hearing indications, perhaps that not all 76ers will be available for tonight's game. What's the latest?
Yeah, so you could certainly say that there is a large cohort of questionable starters for this 76ers team this evening. Against the Phoenix Suns, Seth Curry is questionable with that left flexor recovery. Joel Embiid also questionable left knee recovery. Tobias Harris remains questionable right knee soreness. Ben Simmons remains questionable with that non-COVID illness. So like you said at the top, Celts could be a big day for some of these Sixer reserves who have shown some great stuff lately.
No Ben Simmons, no Tobias Harris. Of course, for the 76ers, in their last game, a loss to the Golden State Warriors, 107-96. And I think, Lauren, as the Sixers look ahead to the final weeks, perhaps month, you could say, of this season, listen, they're in a great spot at 39-18. Phoenix is 41-16. And yes, would it be a great matchup to see how the 76ers take on not only one of the best teams out of the West, one of the most surprising teams in the entire league this year? Of course. But I do think right now the Sixers have to play it smart, play it wise, look at the big prize down the road, see what's happening around the rest of the league. Probably can't hurt to give some guys a night off here and there, some rest and opportunity to reboot if that is indeed the case.
And of course, the team will be heading to Milwaukee following tonight's matchup for the second half of a back-to-back tomorrow night in an Eastern Conference rivalry. They'll play a second game against the Bucks as well on Saturday. So you have to imagine, or at least we can pretty much say for sure, Doc Rivers hopeful the team can get that win tomorrow night based on what he said earlier in media availability, reminding fans that tomorrow, if the Sixers win, they can compete for a season series victory on Saturday, which of course would be super relevant when you're coming up against an Eastern Conference rival. The Bucks, of course, being that third seed, split by the Brooklyn Nets, and the Sixers still with that half-game lead over the Nets at the top of the Eastern Conference. Danny Green, a reason why the Sixers are holding that top seed. He has been great all season long, Celts.
12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, well-rounded game behind 4 3-pointers. For Danny Green in the game against Golden State on Monday, the 76ers lead in the Eastern Conference is at 1 half game ahead of the Brooklyn Nets. And Lauren, you bring up a great point. We know the Sixers, by virtue of their victory last Wednesday, have a season series win tiebreaker over the Brooklyn Nets. It would be great to see the Sixers give themselves a real shot to avenge that loss to Milwaukee a few weeks back at the center. Not going to be easy. Try and win the next 2, and that way, what a great insurance policy for the Sixers to have the head-to-head tiebreaker in the 3-game season series between the 2 teams right behind you, both Brooklyn and Milwaukee, because Milwaukee's been playing great, and they've tweaked their roster and added some real talent.
And worth noting, of course, that loss to Milwaukee a couple weeks back was played without Joel Embiid, and it still took an overtime for the Bucks to get that win. We remember Giannis had a particularly colorful, some say charming, some say not so charming celebration at center court. Dwight Howard, of course, remembers that celebration and said that the team is really looking forward to playing them again. But got to get through tonight first, an opportunity for guys like Dwight to be sure to step up, maybe play some heavier minutes with that larger group questionable. I know we just said it, Celts, but folks asking in the comments who's available tonight. A large group of the starters remain questionable, so that's Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Tobias Harris, all questionable as of now. If that status changes while we're on the air, we, of course, will let you know.
76ers coming off that game Monday against Golden State. Listen, as a fan of basketball, I honestly can't hate on what Steph Curry did. It was incredible to watch. 49 points, 10 of 17 from three-point territory. My holistic, always sunny in Philadelphia view is Sixers are in a good enough spot where if they lost that game, probably is not going to be the end of the world. And listen, as a fan of the game, it is hard not to appreciate and respect what you saw Steph Curry doing. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was special to watch Steph, of course, 10 for 17 from three in this one. Hard to stop Steph, even fully loaded, but remember the Sixers were without Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons in this one. A couple great moments highlighted here by Matisse Thybulle's windmill dunk. I don't think we've seen one of those from him since he joined the NBA. His teammates, of course, loved it. But yes, Celts, back to Steph Curry, a really, really cool thing to watch as a fan of this game. He was unstoppable. I think we're going to see a little bit more of him here. I believe he had 20 points in the last 6 minutes of this one, which is just pretty absurd.
Yeah, he had a hand in 24 out of Golden State's final 26, scored 20, and then had 2 assists that led to a pair of 2-point field goals. So tough to stop a guy in that type of groove, maybe at the peak of his powers from what we've seen in Seth in a 2-time MVP career. Pretty amazing. Matisse Thybulle didn't spend a ton of time on Steph Curry, but of course, the defensive specialist that Matisse is, he was asked about Curry after the game on Monday.
I mean, I didn't really. I think I was on him for like a possession or two, but I mean, just watching what he was doing out there in the couple possessions I did guard him. Yeah, I mean, he's a once in a lifetime type player.
He is. He might be a once in multiple lifetime type player, at least when he's going like that.
It's interesting. So I wish I could credit whoever wrote it. I think it was someone on Sixers Twitter, but said that when you hear someone say that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of time, it almost feels like you're underrating him. It almost feels like that's not enough to describe what he's able to do from deep. He's been one of my favorite players since before I was with the Sixers. Cool to see him go off. Of course, would have liked to see the Sixers put them away anyway, but it's been a historic run and really cool to watch a small part of it the other night.
He's got all the skill and then some, and he's a great showman as well. And an all-in-all good guy based on some of the reports we heard during the game and the story of him bringing the local police officer and his kid to the game. Just great stuff. Tough for the Sixers to lose, but also hard not to appreciate Steph Curry and everything that he's about. A guy who did spend significant time trying to chase Steph Curry off the line, making the 76ers debut, George Hill. And it was just nice to see Hill finally get out there line for the Sixers.
Yes, indeed. Really cool to see George actually playing. He's been really vocal on the bench. His teammates have loved getting to know him. Some, like Danny Green, have loved reuniting with him. But yeah, cool to see him get out there, start to get his leg under him. All in all, 2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He made his mark, and clearly he's still working to find his rhythm. Afterwards, Doc Rivers said it was really clear why they added George Hill to this team. And I think anyone that was watching could see why George Hill is going to be a big part of this down the stretch.
Yeah, and I thought that he seemed to knock off more and more rust as you would expect as the game went along. Here are the thoughts from George Hill about how his 76ers debut went on Monday.
I mean, Stam was a little super rusty, you know, to get your win from, you know, not playing, you know, this style of play basketball in the last, you know, two months and 3 weeks. Kind of takes a toll, but I feel like the only way you can get it back is to put yourself in the fire and go through it. And I'm thankful that Coach, you know, trusts me to go out there and compete and, you know, guard a guy like Curry in the midst of all this, me coming back. But the run that he's on is very historic. Sometimes you just got to look at yourself and say, man, I played the best defense I possibly can, and he just made crazy shots what he's been doing all season long. Despite the last 10 games, he's been doing it at a different level. So you got to tip your hat to sometime the game goes like that.
No doubt, and I think, Lauren, tonight, if some of the players who we mentioned at the top don't play for the Sixers, some of the regulars and the starters, that could mean that there just might be more extended opportunities and easier and more natural opportunities for George Hill to get extended run, to get his game legs back under him in a game like this tonight.
Well, especially with that second unit, with whom he's going to be trying to develop pretty quick and significant chemistry over these last 15 games. No one on the second unit is questionable. So look for a lot of opportunities for that to continue to gel. If anything, maybe that's a silver lining if those questionable aren't able to go tonight. Lots of minutes for the second unit to continue gelling all together.
We know, regardless of who's in or who's out, two guys who are always going to bring it at the center when the 76ers are there. Maybe they even go there when the Sixers aren't there. We don't know. That's an unsolved 76ers mystery. Christian Crosby and Archie of Sixers ENT. Guys, what's going on? Take it away. Thank you, Archie. There's some moves down there on the floor for a second that we saw momentarily right there. It looked like someone who was going through warm-ups. I didn't catch who it was. All I saw was from the waist down, shaking it out a little bit, dancing to Antoine and the Sixers.
I can confirm, based on my location here at the center, that in fact, Mr. George Hill getting ready. Danny Green was getting ready just before him. And for those of you in the comments that are asking about the questionable folks this evening, well, it's all the starters except for Danny Green. Seth Curry questionable with that left hip flexor recovery. Joel Embiid questionable with the left knee recovery. Tobias Harris questionable with the right knee soreness. And Ben Simmons remains questionable with that non-COVID illness. So some more minutes on deck in all likelihood for a guy like George Hill, who of course made his Sixer debut on Monday.
You love seeing the possibility of that. I also, Lauren, have really enjoyed getting to hear more from and know a little bit better Danny Green, one of the solid veterans in the NBA throughout the season. He has been so huge for the 76ers. What a great pickup that was. And especially since the All-Star break, Danny Green has just taken off, so reliable and helping bring the right fit to the 76ers roster, provided that all the healthy guys in a perfect situation are out there.
Well, his play has been excellent. He's been confident late in games. Even after some difficult starts, he comes through down the stretch. And even more than that, maybe, he's been an excellent teammate and leader off the court, whether it's getting a guy like George Hill up to speed or helping a young defender like Matisse Thybulle grow his game. I got to talk to Danny about his relationship with his teammates this morning. Danny, you told us that you were really looking forward to playing alongside George again. What was it like to have him back out there on Monday, and how much are you looking forward to seeing what he brings to the group?
Oh man, I love it. I mean, I love that he's here. We got another vet. He's been around for a while. He's obviously he knows a lot of the principles that I've grown up with playing in the Spurs system. So we know about doing things the right way, and he could bring a lot of that here. He looked sharp. He looked crisp for a guy that hasn't played in 3 months. You know, I was impressed, and you know, I was proud of him. He being in the fourth quarter, even stepping up to the plate to guard Steph in the fourth quarter, even though he had 40. He really, shouldn't have been the guy out there doing that. Still getting his legs back, but he's got to guard Steph Curry in the fourth quarter with 45 points on the line, on the stat sheet already. But he stepped up to the challenge. He did his best. He made it tough for him. He got into him. He got physical. Got a couple blocks. Got a couple deflections. But he's still getting his legs back. But I'm excited. I'm excited about what he can bring to the table for us. Whatever role Doc puts him in, whether it's starting or come off the bench. But I think he's going to come off the bench for now, unless matchups or roster changes happen. But it's good to have another vet here and a guy that understands the game, and it's not a very selfless player and does things the right way. So he'll be a great addition for us once he gets his legs back under him.
Another teammate I wanted to ask you about who did look pretty sharp on Monday is Matisse. I know you've been in his ear quite a bit, and it looks like his confidence is really rising on both ends of the floor. What have you been most impressed about with his game as it's evolved throughout the season?
That itself, as you said it, his confidence is growing, and I think it can grow even more. I've offered to talk, and he's a kid that wants to learn. That's what I love about Matisse. And I told him I would love to sit down and watch him film with him. And not defensive clips, because he's great at that. He knows what he's doing. Obviously, there's some things they probably talk to him. He knows where his mistakes are. But offensively, even though he's growing and his confidence has gotten much higher, I still think there's places where he can be more aggressive for himself and for our team, which will help us a ton and help him a ton. And I think he'll grow into a really great player once he changes his mindset in the offensive end of the floor and just changes a couple little things. We're going to simplify some things for him and the rest of the team, especially making it easier for Joel and Tobias, when those guys get doubled, mostly Joel. So we have Matisse in the right areas, and also where he can attack and be aggressive and, make it easy for him to just get easy baskets.
Immediately following that conversation I had with Danny, he referenced something that's been on a lot of the Sixers' minds over the last few days and all season long, and throughout these guys' careers. These Sixers have had a keen understanding of what's happening in the world outside of basketball, the influence that they can have in impacting positive change based on the platforms that these guys have. Danny shared with us that earlier this morning, the team discussed the verdict that came down yesterday in Minnesota about George Floyd's murder. We also heard from Doc Rivers, who led that conversation with the Sixers this morning prior to tonight's game, on his thoughts about what's going on that's much bigger, of course, than basketball.
Yeah, Mark, my reaction is a little mixed, I would guess. The fact that we are celebrating or celebrated a man who committed murder, that he was going to jail. I thought about that last night, and I'm not so sure if we've come a long way or if we have a long way to go. You can think of that either way. But the right thing happened, obviously. And so I was excited about that. Blacks have been dehumanized for a long time. And to see a man go to jail for killing a black man should not be significant. But it is, Mark. And so I guess in that way, we're coming a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
Unfortunately, Lauren, there have been a couple opportunities over the years in Doc Rivers' career where he's had an opportunity to speak very eloquently about some of the most important issues confronting us, not just here in the United States, but around the world. whether it was with the Donald Sterling situation mess with the LA Clippers in his first year there, in the bubble following the shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. Certainly a point of pride as a 76 employee to have someone like that being able to speak so well and thoughtfully about really just framing the right way a key issue that's out there at the forefront that certainly needs to be resolved.
Yeah, it's not necessarily Doc Rivers' job to lead discussions like this or be a vocal advocate for what is right over and over and over again, but he steps up to the plate over and over and over again. Another thing that he said following that quote that I just wanted to share, he said he always felt like, or I'll read what Doc said. Doc said, "I've always felt like it was my responsibility as a coach to discuss current events and get players' feelings about it. I often learn a lot. Matisse's father is from another country, and we learned about his view on it. I feel strongly that we need to teach." I think it's really impressive that Doc Rivers always takes these opportunities to look at what's really important and then be an advocate. Again, his job is to coach basketball, and he takes it upon himself to be a voice and a leader for so much more. And I, of course, will always be in awe of his work that he does in this space.
Well put. Tonight, the 76ers taking on a Phoenix Suns team that has burst into the forefront of the NBA scene this season. They're number 2 in the Western Conference, right on the heels of the number 1 seed Utah Jazz. Hopefully, over the last couple of weeks, you've gotten to know a new contributor to our program here on 765 Countdown, presented by Tissot. He's the head coach of University of Maryland Eastern Shore, former assistant with the Delaware Bluecoats. He is Jay Crafton. Once again, time for us to go inside the matchup.
This is Jay Crafton, and we're going inside the matchup. Big time game tonight against the Phoenix Suns. And you know when you're going against the Phoenix Suns, you got to stop Chris Paul because his 8 assists per game is the engine that drives the Phoenix Suns offense. So stopping him in pick and roll situations and trying to eliminate his ability to get downhill, dump it off to forwards, and kick out to shooters like Booker, all right, is going to be key. So if we're playing in a drop coverage, we got to be active in our drop coverage. Any switches in pick and roll, got to keep pressure on the basketball and show a crowd off the ball to try to eliminate his confidence and ability to get downhill. Now, Devin Booker, what pops at you is his 41% from 3. He's elite at three-point shooting. We know that he's always been an elite three-point shooter. But here's the kicker. That's only 30% of his field goal attempts. The other 70% are coming from him getting downhill as you chase him off the line, and now he's getting in the lane and finishing versus contact and making pull-up shots. He's an elite scorer. The key to this game is going to be stopping Chris Paul's penetration and not allowing him to get in the lane to find those forwards and get Devin Booker going. Those are going to be keys. For the Sixers, let's talk about the second-year guard out of Washington, Matisse Thybulle. Matisse has done an incredible job defensively. What makes him elite at 6'5", he's a big guard that can get into guys defensively on the basketball. He can switch and guard multiple positions, so you can count on him to stop penetration all across the perimeter. Does a great job rebounding the basketball as well. But here's where he's really elite defensively. He's one of the best in the league at reading the eyes of the offensive player while he's off the ball, showing a crowd and in gaps. And then with his athleticism, he just jumps on the basketball, steals it, gets out in transition, and has the ability to go and finish athletically at the rim. He's continuing to grow his offensive skill set. He's at 30% from 3. We like to see him to continue to grow as a shooter. He's got pretty good form. He's just going to keep having to get reps with the player development staff, which we've seen him do. He's shown the last few games his ability to slash and finish at the rim with aggressiveness, and he's developing a mid-range shot. As Matisse continues to work with the elite Sixers player development staff, he's got a bright future. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the toughness and the work ethic to be a premier player on the rise. This is Jay Crafton, and you just went inside the matchup.
Great stuff, per usual, from Jay Crafton. Love having him as a part of our program here on 7-6 Live Countdown, presented by Tissot. Our producer extraordinaire, Trevor Gaffney, on the sticks, cutting that clip. Love seeing those pieces of video match up with Jay's analysis. Great job all around. Okay, so tonight, the Phoenix Suns, awesome team out of the Western Conference, perhaps taking a couple more steps from what people might have thought after going undefeated in the bubble in August. They didn't make it in the play-in. They did add Chris Paul in the offseason, some other pieces. DeAndre Ayton's playing great. Of course, there's Devin Booker. Mikal Bridges has been a key piece. This is a really, really good team that, as you can see by the graphic on the bottom of your screen, they're on pace for their best finish in almost a decade and a half.
and rewarded for that excellent play in the bubble last season. This team, obviously a heavy bubble favorite, a bit of an underdog in that situation, and now taking that momentum and certainly exceeding expectations this season. Really cool to see the way a veteran like Chris Paul has been able to come in and really change the way that that organization runs, that this team runs together. So, of course, looking forward to this one. Wish that both teams could be at full strength. Again, for probably the 5th time, if you're just joining us now, Seth Curry, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, all questionable for this one. So look for a lot of reserves to come up against those top Suns guys as the teams fight it out for the 2nd time this season. The Sixers will look to tie the season series at 1 apiece.
What do you know? Would you look at the time on this Tissot Chrono XL NBA Special Edition? Ah, yes. Keys to the game.
My Tissot PR 100 agrees with you. Keys to the game.
Good. Excellent. We like to see that. We like to see the synchronicity there. Lauren, what do we got?
All right, my key to the game is pretty simple, and it's based on the Sixers' availability. All season long, this is a team that said they want to find ways to win regardless of who's out on the floor. With less than an hour to go and not really having a lot of certainty about who's going to go tonight, I said set the tone from the beginning. This is a team that always wants to set the tone on defense. A couple key defenders still available for these Sixers tonight. They still have that 2nd best defensive rating in the league. They set the tone on the defensive end. They're going to have a shot in this one tonight.
I like it. My key for tonight, keep the Suns out of the corners. Number 3 in the league shooting 3 from the corner. I thought that was an area where the Sixers struggled against the LA Clippers in a close game, a win last Friday. Let's see perhaps if they can lock things up a little bit better in the corner tonight against a Phoenix team that's been awesome. Statistically, they're 4th in net rating. They're great defensively. They're top 2 in offense. They're number 3 on mid-range jumpers. So they're really good. We didn't mention they, of course, have the homie. The homie's back in the house. Are there maybe some Sixers fans who can't remember and recall the Dario Saric era? A great era.
Well, I will say, Seltz, he predated me, but I do know how beloved that man is. I'm sure the fans that will be in attendance tonight welcome him back with open arms.
Happy for him that he was able to get out of Minnesota and get to a great situation with the Phoenix Suns. Those are the keys to the game, presented by Tissot. Hey, Doc Rivers' first coaching opportunity was with, of course, the Orlando Magic back in 1999-2000. The first player he told the Orlando front office that he wanted to acquire the free agent is the guy he's going to be coaching against tonight, Monty Williams, a former teammate of Doc's with the New York Knicks and also the San Antonio Spurs. So Doc went into coaching. Monty was still playing, and he was the first free agent acquisition that Doc lobbied for. And we know that Monty obviously is a guy who's had a spectacular coaching career, been through a lot personally, and it's awesome to see him having the success he's having. I think maybe the 3 finalists, Lauren, for Coach of the Year could come down to Doc, Monty, and maybe Quinn Snyder. But that's pretty cool, especially for Doc and Monty both to be having the seasons that they're having.
Yeah, a couple of key Coach of the Year candidates facing off tonight in a city where they both coached, of course, with Monty, a former assistant with the 76ers. Good to see him back always.
That will do it for our program tonight. The mystery will be who is in, who is out for the 76ers this evening. There's a gentleman whose name you can't spell these days, in theory, of course, without 3 letters, MVP. Will he play tonight? To be seen, but he's getting in some cardio work. Regardless, the Sixers, of course, have a big back-to-back finishing tomorrow with the Milwaukee Bucks that starts a 2-game road series that wraps Saturday afternoon. Lauren, thank you. Coletti, Trevor, thank you guys. Enjoy the game tonight, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow at Sixers and Bucks. Yeah.